Welcome. Thank you for joining us for one of JM4C's Spectrum Series presentations. My name is Kathy Cummo, and I'm a project coordinator for JM4C. For the past 3 years, we've held Spectrum Series presentations at the Hedberg Library that focused on LGBTQ topics to help family, friends, and the community have a better understanding. Due to COVID-19, our Spectrum Series has had to go virtual. For this presentation, we have Cynthia, who is going to share her story with us.
Hi there, my name is Cynthia Coates. I'm the mother of a 17-year-old non-binary person. And 2 years ago, I gave a presentation to a group about this topic. And I wanted to share it with you today, also with an update just for you. So here we go. It's called The Transition That Wasn't, a title that I realize now is of great denial. On October 5th, 2002 at 3:46 p.m., my perfect little baby came into the world. It was a textbook pregnancy with a textbook ending. She weighed in at 8 pounds, 13 and a half ounces, 21 and a half inches long. During my pregnancy, I was keenly aware that my brain consciousness was literally feeling different and shifting into something else. I no longer was thinking for just me. I was in constant awareness that I was in total togetherness with my little one who was still in my womb. And then she came out to be big and loud and lovely. Everything I had prayed for, even the most gorgeous, clear blue eyes that still light up in the sun. But mostly, I had prayed for a precious girl. I got girls. I understood girls. I was a girl. I desperately wanted a girl because I sensed that her father was going to flake out on us, which he did. If I was going to be a single parent, I figured a girl would just be easier to understand and bond with than a boy for me, and I was right. My child has had less temper tantrums in the last 15 years than I have had. Her last real tantrum, I believe, was when she was 2. Mine was when I was 44. I'm 45 now. By the age of 2, we had our own language that I didn't realize was incomprehensible to everyone else around us. In response to this, she received services from birth to 3 for physical and speech therapy. By the age of 4, she was diagnosed with ASD, autism spectrum disorder. She received speech therapy until 4th grade. The transition that came from this is now that she is totally intelligible with a vast and articulate vocabulary. I spent several years in single mother bliss, a compliant child who never talked back, rarely cried, and hardly ever challenged my authority with tantrums or blistering questions. But somehow, I just knew that eventually the other shoe would drop. On October 18th, 2017, at 7:45 a.m., while walking out the door to school, my perfect little 15-year-old baby came out to me. Not as a handsome lesbian, which frankly I had prayed for, but rather as transgender. My perfect little girl wanted to be a boy. I did not react well at all. I immediately started weeping and asked her the most inappropriate question that came to mind at the time. Through sobs, I managed to say, "Do you want to have your breasts removed?" She took one incredulous look at me and said, "Ma, this is going to take a considerable amount of time. Let's cross that bridge when we get to it." I spent the entire day at work in tears. Coworkers and my supervisor couldn't help but notice and ask. I couldn't bring myself to say the words. I felt like I was from the 1950s and was reacting like a parent then receiving the knowledge that my child was gay. I was terrified about family, strangers, peers, and the school reaction. How were we going to send him to camp this summer? Did they even accommodate for that? What kind of advocacy was required of me? The thing I knew I needed was other parents. If I could turn back time, I needed a voice of wisdom and a source of humility. I needed a parent in the exact same position. I needed Cher. So during work, I looked up an interview with Cher talking about Chaz Bono, her transgender son. My main takeaway from the Cher interview was that I needed to ask one question. Baby, are you miserable? My kiddo's response was classic. Well, I'm not as dysphoric as most trans men. So no, not miserable. I told my child that I needed support on this and would be talking to other adults about it. He acquiesced and said that it was fine for me to seek support. With him, I watched the HBO documentary called The Trans List. This show assured me that there was room in the world for my kiddo, no matter what. I ordered books, even the memoir of Chaz Bono called Transition. I wanted desperately to understand. I joined a local parent group through the school district. Their immediate insights, wisdom, experience, and acceptance made a huge difference. I felt I knew I had my safety net that I wanted so much to find. There is so much to know, which is why we put resources and definitions here at the end for you to reference. Then another transition occurred. On January 21st, 2018 at 2:56 p.m., my child told me again that what they had been telling me since 7th grade. They said that being male really didn't make sense and that they were actually agender. My kiddo is ace, meaning asexual, and in their case also agender and aromantic. They apologized for all the nonsense they put me through and said that they preferred they, them, their pronouns, which is still so incredibly weird for a grammar geek such as myself. I often wonder about nurture versus nature. Before anyone gets their undies in a bunch, it's not that I wonder if nurture creates the realization that folks are trans or gay or anything else not binary. I believe that science has and will continue to prove that there are genetic dispositions for trans and gay people. What I've been concerned about is my influence. My child has admitted that seeing me go through a painful breakup with my former fiance and initially breaking up with their dad has turned them off to a romantic connection of any sort. I feel like I'm possibly a negative influence. I wonder if they will end up alone. I wonder if the autism diagnosis is to blame. I wonder if any of it makes a difference and that ultimately my beautiful child is just that, beautiful. This is the story of potential transition that didn't quite happen, at least not in the sense that most people understand it. I went back to my trans parent group recently to give them the news that I was so relieved by. My kid is gender neutral, not trans. I immediately felt bad after saying it because I realized perhaps I was not in the right place anymore. Later, I was leaving that night. Another parent whose child currently identifies as gender fluid made sure to say to me, "See you next month." This was the olive branch I needed. During the meeting, I found myself offering support to parents whose children had just come out as trans. One mother whose husband was not there and offering zero support to her or the kiddo wept a little in the group. One parent referenced my story that kids can change their realizations with hope in her voice. I felt awful because I knew this was not the typical. Many trans kiddos want to fully transition pronto, like yesterday, which can look like and mean different things to different people. Hormones and top and or bottom surgeries, just name and pronoun changes, all of the above or simply nothing at all. With all the challenges of life coming together at once, I've been told that I'm very calm in spite of it all. I am not. I am often crazy over it all, but more importantly, I focus on the journey with my kiddo firmly in the driver's seat and I, the co-pilot, in the passenger seat. So on this current day, at the current time, my kiddo's transition journey has taught me to remember beyond anything else. My child is perfect, my child is beautiful, and while there are challenges ahead, my child belongs here with all of us. Then I gave definitions for cisgender, agender, transgender, gender fluid, and non-binary I defined as often called the third gender, not male or female. The resources I gave were PFLAG Madison and Transparent, a group through the Madison Metropolitan School District. Transition, How I Became a Man, a personal memoir by Chaz Bono. She's Not There, A Life in Two Genders by Jennifer Finney Boylan. And then finally, my update. I wrote this on July 31st, 2020. Little did I know then that my child's identity would shift again. They identify as non-binary and trans-masculine now. They are waiting to transition until after they graduate from high school. 1 year left of high school as we stare down the senior year from hell. There's been no serious talk yet of top surgery, but hormones to grow facial hair seem to be of great interest. So are trans boys. AFAB, assigned female at birth, apparently. So there is now a boyfriend too. He graduated early from high school and got a full ride to the University of Iowa after a fantastic ACT score and acing school in general. I like him. We just have never met him in person, but that is a whole other conversation. My pronoun usage has improved greatly, being able to accept they, them pronouns much better than he, him. I'm at least getting used to the idea of seeing my kid with facial hair and possibly a flat chest one day. I've decided to no longer feel guilty about wanting a girl so much to only have it karmically punch me in the face, or feel guilty for wanting to see pictures of them dressed in the pretty little dresses I once put them in. I had bought into the whole binary ideal and realized early in this process that my child had a substantial amount to teach me. There was something else, something other than just girl and boy. What about those who are intersex at birth? Not a large population, but about as common as redheads. Where do they fit in a binary world when in actuality, the world is no such thing? My therapist had encouraged me to see the world this way, and it's helped immensely. And looking back now, having come 2 years further in my journey towards acceptance, I realize how special this child is and how utterly blessed I am for being their mom. I was quietly angry for a while at them for seemingly somehow complicating my life further than what I thought I could accept. It isn't true. I can accept this. I have. There is more work to do, certainly, and I'm still at times quite frightened of what the future holds for them, but I hold dear to the idea that they are brave and strong for expressing their truth. With the grip of binary societal mores, there's much more to see in the world than what the binary-only thinking has to offer. Looking for the humanity first and figure out the rest later. This has served me well in these interesting times. So my message to you, hold on, moms and dads out there. You just got this magical unicorn in the form of your kid, and you're going to go on an adventure like no other. Non-binary is unseen in media representation. Non-binary is often misunderstood or just ignored outright. I see my kid wanting to seriously gender bend once they start T, testosterone. I see my kid advocate for their mental health as well as their gender identity. I see my kid as they are and no longer trying to fit them into a neat little box. Gender cannot be applied just by looking at someone, but an undying love for your child should be easily applied. Thank you.